Hello. Thanks. My name is Chris Hosmer, and today I'm going to be talking about design, obviously, but I'm going to be talking about how, what, and why we design. Ever since I was a little kid, I've wanted to be a designer. I love design, even before I knew that you could do it for a job. And the reason I love design is because it's fun. We get to create new things. We get to create new worlds and give shape to ideas, right? We can take something in our head and make it real, and that's really exciting. I trained as an industrial designer, so I have a lot of experience in product development. And for a lot of my career, I did design strategy consult. I bounced between these two places, Silicon Valley and Shanghai, in this kind of, mobile-first cloud, social AI era. It's never been easier to do new things, and there's more and more people and more capital sort of enabling innovation to happen. But these two places also share something really special and really unique, and that's this kind of insane enthusiasm for the future and for building the future. And it's this kind of like crazy race to build things that no one's ever seen before that are going to improve the world. And it's very optimistic, and it's very sort of addictive. But that's actually not what I want to talk about today. In this race that I call the quest for perpetual better, in this race, we sometimes lose sight of something that I think is very important, and that's really what I want to talk about today. And that's what I call humane design. So Silicon Valley and Shanghai, and also the kind of the Shenzhen ecosystem and the startup scene in Beijing, host a lot of really interesting things. And it's the perfect sort of laboratory to talk about humane design. And to help me out, I'm going to introduce you to this guy, Ted. And this is a page of notes that I took when I was interviewing Ted. Ted Selker is a professor of technology at the Media Lab at MIT. And about 10 or 12 years ago, so this is pre-smartphone, pre-social networking and everything, and we were talking about technology trends. And Ted has a very interesting perspective on technology. The premise that a lot of his research is based on is this premise that technologies last and survive in our lives if they enable social interaction and social engagement. And he teaches this course called Design Intelligence. And I really love this idea of design IQ. It's such a cool way of thinking about technology because Ted thinks that it always has to be connected to something human. And because Ted's a technologist, he comes at it from technology. But I'm a designer. And so I always think about the other side. What's the design EQ? And how you should probably have both of these things, right? One is how do you design intelligently? The other is what I call how to design humanely. And what's in the middle of these two things is the thing we're designing, the experience. And this is another example of a page of research that I had done a few years ago, where I was working for an American fashion brand that is kind of very specific to the northeast of the U.S. And they make sort of outdoor apparel, stuff like that. And they had this issue where they wanted to innovate and grow their product line, but their customers were really loyal to the products that they already made. And so they were sort of struggling with how do we do new things and how do we create new products without alienating our core customers. And so what me and my team did was we decided to spend time with their customers and really understand what was it about their products and the brand that they loved. And so rather than ask them, like, well, what do you like about this boot, for example? Or like, do you like this color? No. It was much more immersive, ethnographic kind of research. The kind of design research that I did a lot of when I was consulting design strategy. And so we would spend time with these families. We'd eat with them. We'd go to work with them. We'd spend weekends with them. And what we quickly realized was the way that they talked about themselves and the way that they talked about these products was almost the same. So, for example, we would ask them, like, well, why do you like this jacket, for example? And they would use words like, well, it's resilient, and its construction is really clever, and it's really trustworthy. And we started thinking about it, and it was like, these words are words that you would use to describe a person, not a thing, like an inanimate object. What it means is that they were personifying these things. They were thinking and describing them the way that they would describe someone in their own family or one of their friends. And that, by extension, is how they thought of this brand and these products. And once we realized that as long as we honored that affinity to the values, we could design a whole bunch of stuff and they'd be okay with it. And that's, in fact, what we did. Value and sort of identity became very important in my own thinking about why I design. And so I sort of set up this really simple framework to talk about it. So on the left, we have Design IQ, and that usually and always starts with the technology. On the right, Design EQ is, let's start with values. And what do I mean by values? These are core to who we are as humans, right? And it's really important for us not to lose sight of that. That's kind of the source of a lot of the inspiration and the ideas that we have when we're creating something new. There's a kind of a mid-step when you're coming from either side. So for technology, it's usually, it has to be solving a problem, right? If it's not solving a problem, there's something wrong, right? You're probably not going to get to a very resonant solution. And the value also has to ladder to an aspiration. We always have to go back to people. And I like to sketch when I take notes because it helps me remember, and it kind of leads to ideas. So as I'm talking to people, I'll take down little notes of what I'm thinking as well as what they're saying. And later when I go back, it's this really rich source of ideas. Another quick example, to talk about coming from a technology side. Years ago, I also worked on this project. This is spun off from a startup out of the Media Lab as well. And it's basically a binocular kind of heads-up display. So this is like VR before VR. And the technical benefit of this product is undeniable. It's super cool. You can see this whole screen in front of you when you wear it. But no one's going to wear that because the practical experience of it is really clunky. And my team was asked to think about applications for this technology. And we did that. And then 12 years later, this product came out. This is Google Glass, and some of you probably know this one. And this product is kind of like that other product, except that they've evolved a lot of the experience and a lot of the features. And so this product is built on Google's kind of platform. And so they have your calendar and your contacts and search, and that's all being overlaid through that one lens. Plus there's audio and there's a camera. So there's clearly an effort to design a better experience for this product for consumers. And I would say that they did okay. But one thing about this product that I could never quite be okay with was that it says something really specific about you if you wear it. It says that you're a nerd. It says that you're really techie and you're kind of leading edge. And that's really weird, I think, if you're the person facing that person. I think that's never not going to be weird because you're looking at a camera and you're wondering, well, if they're looking at me, are they seeing me? Are they seeing some information? Are they recording me? Or what's going on? And then last year, this company Snap, formerly Snapchat, introduced the spectacles. And the spectacles are a very different product than the previous two. Okay, they do different things. But I think there's a really powerful lesson here, because what Snap did was they took a technology and they connected it to a behavior that people wanted to have, or in fact, people were already having. Their users were using their smartphones to capture video and post it. And so they just sort of collapsed the way that you do that and put it into sunglasses. And sunglasses, I think, are the point. Sunglasses are a part of your identity. It's a style choice, right? It's an accessory. It's not weird. To look at someone wearing sunglasses is normal. So Snap clearly touched on something that Google and the startup didn't, which was that they started from the value side. They started from the side of figuring out what it was their users were trying to do and what was important to them. And I bet what they decided what was important to them was their identity and social engagement. So what's going to enable that and not be a barrier to that? Google and the startup were really trying to sort of start with a technology and find a problem to solve and kind of find a solution and an experience to match. We talked about sort of humane design as a way of thinking about how we design and why. But I also want to talk about using humane design as a framework to think about what we design. And I became very interested a few years ago in health and wellness because I was having, I and my daughter were having some health issues. And it had to do with the air. So I started thinking about, getting healthy. And I was talking to kind of a fitness instructor, and she was saying, before you do any exercise, before you do anything with your body, there's 3 things you got to know. It's what you eat, what you drink, and what you breathe. And if you don't get those right, everything you do after that doesn't really matter. And that was really a profound kind of insight for me. What you eat and what you drink, you can control, right? And as a designer, that's cool because I like to control my environment. I like to shape things around me. And what I eat and drink is a choice. If I don't eat and drink, I can survive for even a few days, right? I'll be okay. But breathing is different. Breathing is something I can't really control. And it's also not a choice. It's involuntary. I can't help it. And lastly, if I don't breathe, even for a few minutes, it's lights out. I'm dead. So breathing, and especially breathing healthy, became this kind of like obsession for me. It's a conundrum. As a designer, how do we solve for this? This is kind of like the ultimate, to me, humane design challenge. There's been a lot of innovation in air purifiers over the last couple of years, which is the good news. And I know because I've designed a few of them. But that same level of innovation has not been applied to outdoor air and to wearables specifically. And so that's what we're looking at. There's a technology side and there's a value side here. And what I want to talk about for the next minute or so is just how we approach this. The first thing, from the technology side, it's looking at fit and feedback. This is something that if you happen to be a mask wearer, you might be intimately familiar with. But most masks don't fit very well. And the biggest problem is that most masks don't tell you if they're working. So you have no idea. There's no feedback. So I created this mask that you see here where there's kind of this outside part. We call it a soft shell. It's made of a very soft material, but it's kind of shaped, and it's very lightweight. And then behind that, you can sort of see there's a filter that snaps into it. That's a disposable filter, PM2.5 filter. Now, the first thing you'll notice about this mask is there's no straight lines on it, because your face has no straight lines on it. And that was the biggest learning, is that what the material that masks are made of, the filters, they're basically flat sheets. So it's kind of like paper, like it's, if you can imagine a big roll of paper. So these filters are sort of cut at very high speeds out of this flat sheet and then folded into a shape that you put on your face. So if you can imagine you've got a piece of paper and you have to kind of fold it into a shape that'll fit your face. It's hard, right? It's hard to imagine and it's hard to do. So we created a filter that has no straight lines because your face is curvilinear. The second big thing we do, and this is probably the most differentiating thing, is the feedback. So where a lot of masks will have a little valve on the front, the material that we used in this mask is so breathable that we could replace that with a little sensor. It's very discreet. And what that sensor does is it gives you feedback to the user about your breathing. So it records your breathing. It records the rate and the rhythm and the count. And we're able to do a lot with that. We're able to tell you, for example, how good your air is and when you should change your filter, because most people don't know. We're able to alert you when you should wear a mask. And we're also able to alert you when the air around you is starting to deteriorate. And that little sensor has a very discrete little ring of light as an indicator that it is working, right? So this is now, for the first time, a mask that is kind of doing the humane thing and giving you the reassurance that it's working. The next thing is comfort. Okay, so if you've ever worn a mask, they're really uncomfortable because they're hot and they're kind of oppressive and they're not comfortable. So we wanted to tackle this. Well, like I mentioned before, it's really difficult to design comfort into a mask that is essentially square. So we decided to create a totally different type of seal out of a very, very soft material. The seal comes apart, and there's 2 layers. And the seal actually is designed to form a 360 contact with your skin. And this is a real breakthrough in sort of low-cost, high-speed, medical-grade manufacturing of a disposable part. That's not super sexy, but it's really cool because this is probably the best filter that you can buy because it's one of the only ones that'll fit your face. I know that because we designed it to fit Asian faces. Asian faces are characterized by their being slightly wider and a little less deep than Caucasian faces. All masks on the market are designed for Caucasian faces. The feeling of this when you put it on is a very light touch seal. So it doesn't feel oppressive, and it adapts to your face, and it adapts to the size of your face. And of course, we also looked at just the physical dynamics of having something sitting on your face for a long period of time. And we looked at the tension on your ears and the angle of those elastic bands on your ears and the ideal weight, shape, and size of that mask, and including the volume in that mask. And so that's like only one half of the job. That's the technology. But we wanted to hide the technology, right? We don't want to make the technology the point, or we'd look like Google Glass. We want that to be the part inside that you know is there, so you trust that it works. But what we actually want to focus on is on the value side. What's the value we're addressing? Well, it's my identity, right? It's the way that I look. So the outside of the mask has a totally different job. And this shape has been designed such that we can totally customize it through the use of different materials, through the use of different printing and pattern and trim. And the reason that we decided to take this approach, it's more of a performance garment or a piece of apparel is it is in fact a part of your identity. And just like Snap figured out that sunglasses are a style choice, we're also trying to change the perception of this category. And if you think about sunglasses, sunglasses are basically a prosthetic device to protect you from your environment that covers a very expressive part of your face, right? Your eyes. Well, a mask is a prosthetic device that protects you from your environment and covers a very expressive part of your face, which is your mouth, right? So these are really the same things. We're trying to address the identity aspect of it, and no other wearable mask does that. The aspiration here is freedom, the freedom to breathe cleanly. And so we also created a campaign around how we think about air and how we talk about air. Like I said earlier, we don't really have a vocabulary for it. We don't really have a common way to talk or think about it. And so here what we wanted to do is we wanted to focus on not the product. It's not about the mask. It's about what the mask delivers. It's about the benefit of the mask, which is air, which is a clean breath. And so in the place of where the mask goes, we put a bunch of statements, a bunch of emotions, perceptions, thoughts, and ideas, because we want to start a conversation around the air. And this is the thing that I think, beyond what the product category is, this mask, we want to empower a whole different way of thinking about something that is so vital to all of us. So in closing, I just want to say that I think as designers, the most important thing, the most important attribute that we can have is to be humanists. Thank you.